Foul is Fair, Chapter 27, Flame War. For a moment, nothing happened, and Justin reached for the sword again. Before he could take hold of it, blue flame shot upward from the stone, shooting high into the air. Surprised, Justin staggered back. As the flame lowered, a shockwave rippled out from the stone, the outer edge ringed with blue flame. Megan dove just in time, and even then, the force rolled her backwards. Justin landed next to her, stunned and groaning, but at least still moving. The others ended up scattered around the clearing, with Kasha catching and shielding Lonnie with her body before they crashed into a tree. Aisling and the Count both went tumbling much further, disappearing back into the woods. As Megan watched, blue flames licked across the surface of the stone, etching ancient Celtic symbols in the facing surface. Even after the flames passed each symbol, continuing to write something across the stone, the symbols still flickered with the occasional sparks or tiny tongues of flame. Megan couldn't make out the writing, but even from where she was, she could feel power and heat radiating off the stone. "What did that just do?" Megan asked, trying to clear her head while looking around for signs of Aisling. "Exactly what I needed it to do," said a clear, ringing voice. Orla, accompanied by her general, a dozen of the She Knights, and twice as many brownies, stepped into the clearing from the other side. A host of pixies, Megan couldn't say how many glimmers that was, emerged from the woods, settling into the trees around the edges. "It will fuel the balefires," the Queen continued. "A constant, dependable energy source will keep them burning, keep the paths clear and safe. We don't need detours for maintenance. We don't need unseelie tricks to stoke them. We will never need the unseelie to run anything again. Now that it's obsolete, I'm canceling the dance, this year and forever." "Canceling the dance?" Lonnie was the next to speak. "That's insane. Do you realize what that will do to the earth?" Orla turned her head, glancing at Lonnie for a few moments before answering. "Earth will survive. As soon as stability is ensured, we'll see what we can do to help mitigate any damage. We must look to the good of Fairy first." Kasha was next, half growling her words as she pulled herself up to stand behind Lonnie. "You're asking for a war. The Unseelie aren't going to stand for this." "The Unseelie are a nuisance. They're a mess. They're a prison mob that is allowed to run loose year after year. I'm choosing to end the cycle and keep things in the hands of those of us who know what we're doing." "By shoving a flaming sword into your delicately balanced system," Megan interjected. "I can control it," was Orla's slow, almost staccato reply. "It can be controlled." But won't there be a huge fight?" Megan asked. "Here's hoping," said Kasha. The Queen just smiled. "Who knows? There are a few Unseelie who can see reason sometimes," she said with a cryptic lightness. "As for the rest, how would they become informed and organized before Samhain? Even if they did, we have the upper hand until then, and now we always will." "When my dad went missing in the first place," Megan began, "I may have mentioned how very, very impressive the Elaine Trakand would have been for the Samhain feast at the ball. I may have mentioned that it was just possible for a sufficiently skilled and dashing hunter to bring in such a trophy from the winter marches before the paths have shifted. And then, certain reasonable people may have done what they found necessary." The words echoed a bit as Megan heard them. Her brain scrambled to the last time she heard a phrase like that, and the wince on her face took several different aspects. She struggled to listen, her heart pounding with anger, hurt, and confusion to the Queen's next declaration. "Justin of Ludlow," Orla said, "our deal is done. You are under no further geisha." "Guess what?" Megan asked automatically, little though she was in the mood for another vocabulary lesson. Aisling still didn't pop up to give one anyway. "She doesn't have any other jobs for me before I go home," Justin, still bowing slightly, explained in the careful tone of a boy who realizes he's pleased some very dangerous people and accidentally upset others. Exactly, Orla said. Ludlow is still lovely this time of year, crumbling castle walls and all. Admittedly, right now that particular path would be especially... She glanced at the sword and the blue sparking conduit. Hot. Uncomfortably so. So we'll all be waiting comfortably together at the castle, Kasha asked, sneering. With this nice, comfortable escort and maybe a comfortable cell or a comfortable pyre? I don't think there'd be any point to that. I can send some pixies with you temporarily. They already have one, thank you, Majesty. Ashling's voice was cold as the Count finally flew out of the trees. Come on, she said, and all the Queen's pixies and all the Queen's men made no move as Aisling led the girls, the chariot, and Justin out of the clearing. I told you it wasn't a rock, Aisling said. You also told me you evolved from baby's laughter and that he's called the Count because he has a widow's peak, Megan replied. Anyway, There was too much, just too much. So she seized on one thing she thought she could address. I kind of have a feeling who might have helped with all this by arranging the unseelie involved in the ambush. The Grey Lady? Yeah. So is that why you were mad at her when we met her? Megan had wondered, but there had always been too many other questions. Sort of. I didn't know anything, but she's been on his case for years. A few nagging whispers about his travels and all, and... She's into will-o-wisps. Yeah. And I'm going to give her such a piece of my mind after I've taken you home. Megan paused for a moment. You're talking to Justin, right? No, Aisling said. Easier to just bring him to Seattle, too. He'll deal. Justin, walking along with an ornate empty sheath at his side, wisely made no objection. Oh, then we've got a problem, Megan said after a pause. I don't know that I want to go home anytime soon.